get right to the Springboard. So this is I'm going back to the original questions. Let's see what we have today. What did Kirk order done to Mr. Hingis that he would never have done to the Tribbles? I'll read that one more time. What did Kirk order done to Mr. Hingis that he would have never done with the Tribbles? Now I would take the time to discuss Mr. Hingis from the episode The Wolf in the Fold. And I wish I were spiffier on that. But the thing about these cards, it tells you the episode it's from. So we're dealing with Wolf in the Fold. And I'm kind of walking around this question because I don't know why I'm looking for a pin. This is what happens when I do meetings all day. I need a pin. I don't know what he threatened to do, that he wouldn't do the Tribbles. Well, he wasn't going to put the Tribbles out into space. That's the end of Trouble with Tribbles. Did he threaten to throw him out an airlock? Well, Mr. Hingis was the Jack the Ripper, the Jack the Ripper guy inhabiting the evil spirit. That was a Theodore Sturgeon episode. So, nice thing about Wolf in the Fold, you get an old-fashioned horror story. It's a tough one. I know I say that a lot. And then the spirit of Jack the Ripper invades the computers as well. I always get Wolf in the Fold confused with an episode from the animated version of Trek from the 70s where they have the computer compute pie. I know I'm bouncing around the tough issue of the Wolf in the Fold, and that's all the murdering that takes place. It's not an episode I go back and want to watch a lot, if at all. That's the issue with Wolf in the Fold. So I'm gonna just guess throw him out an airlock. What do you say at home? This be a bouncing off point to some. What was the other Sturgeon episode? Did he do a Monk Time? That was a good episode. Yeah, Wolf in the Fold, yeah. Essentially, Wolf in the Fold, Jack the Ripper comes on board the Enterprise. Okay. Alright, so I need another card to block this card so I can see what the particular answer is. Again, I think I send him out the airlock. He wasn't going to do that. He wasn't going to do that with the Tribbles. Let's see what the magic card. This is a long one. He had Spock beam Hingis, or rather, the murdering creature that had become Hingis. I think I'm on the right track. Out into space. Okay, so Galactica has taught me throw him out the airlock is the better. Out into space, where his molecules were scattered at the widest angle of dispersion. All right. That's Wolf in the Fold. That's what happens to the Hingis guy at the end of that little mystery. Yeah, it's a tough episode to watch nowadays. Wolf in the Fold. A topic for another time, but a good dive, maybe. Wolf in the Fold. I hadn't expected all these original. Oh, maybe I'm figuring out the cards. Is it the case that this is original series? I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. All right, green. This is green. Moving to the next topic. What does Commander Morrow refuse to allow Kirk to do? Commander Morrow, of course. We're dealing with Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. And this is an odd thing, and I talked about Harv Bennett's Trek movies as going a little loosey-goosey on what we would consider how Starfleet works and the canon and all. I'm sorry I just shared that word. It's a geek show. So somehow there's a commander of Starfleet that everybody calls commander, but it's not the same, but it outranks an admiral. You see that as well where Scotty becomes captain of engineering, so he has the rank of captain, but he's not a... loosey-goosey stuff. But hey, it's a movie. It works. So yeah, Jim wants to take the Enterprise back to the Mantara sector to visit the Genesis planet because Sarek just did a mind meld with him, and all of a sudden, oh, Spock's spirit is still alive in McCoy. Can we go get his body back? But what's odd is I don't know at that time that Kirk understood that Spock was regenerated and alive. That's the only hitch with Star Trek 3 that I'm thinking about it as I think out loud right now. Because otherwise, the body's dead. There was no talk of regenerating, unless I missed something in the scene between Kirk and Sarek after the mind meld. Because then it's just a case of taking McCoy to Vulcan, and of course we didn't know this at the time, but we could then put Spock in one of the Catric arcs, right? Catric arcs, of course. Here we go again. That's the importance of the Enterprise episode, The Forge. Fine, great episode. And we also see that a bit in the 2009 Star Trek movie, Before the Destruction of Vulcan. I think I'm giving away any spoilers with that one. So the whole thing becomes, the head of Starfleet isn't going to let Kirk take his old ship out. And that's why you have Kirk steal the ship. That's Star Trek 3. Yeah, that drama. I like the movie. I like Star Trek 3. I don't watch it a lot. That's a good one to go back to. And again, I hate to be geek out, but the fine music too. I think Star Trek 3 is almost more meaningful than Star Trek 2. I kind of like a lot of Star Trek 3. Maybe I'll sleep on that too. So the answer to question green here is return to the Genesis planet to look for Spock's body. All right, that's question green. I didn't do my intro today. Hey, I'm Dave. Hope you're having a great day. And maybe if I can edit this. I am looking into editing software, but that would require, maybe if 20 people cared and could give me some advice. But I realize that I am one voice out of millions, and this is all I can do. Red question. Question red. I don't think I'm going to do a half an hour from this card. I might keep it down to 17 minutes. The tough thing is that, I'm 8 minutes in. I'm switching, obviously. I've switched to just a plain old QuickTime instead of using Zoom, so you can have resolution and maybe sound. Can I do some AMSR stuff with my voice and talk to you about things? So the red question is, I really want to do a digression on how I can almost read this, and of course the flashlight is in another room. I think I'll do okay without the flashlight today. A door in the universe, an interdimensional passageway connecting our universe to an antimatter continuum was created by... We have some multiple choice. Before I look at the multiple choice, boy, these are a lot of original series stuff. Okay, this touches on some themes I want to talk about because, again, I don't have the book here. I'm upset with myself. Yes, I do. Again, I think I'm going to do a whole other episode on the Dayton Ward novel here and the themes that it has with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Last time I talked to you, we talked about Teen Titans and Raven, and it's the Star Trek comic book stuff. They live with each other. There's another example where you see the legacy of the episode, The Alternative Factor, which is a hot mess of an episode. Again, I'm going to reference Cushman's work. You read about what the alternative factor was supposed to be and how it ended up. Hot mess. But anyway, so it's a big matter-antimatter thing. And if you know your DC comics, you know that the matter and antimatter universes, early on in some Green Lanterns, and that plays a role in Crisis. And that's where you see the Anti-Monitor and the Shadow Demons and all that stuff. It's Quark. Was the planet called Quark or Quard? I'm in Green Lantern territory now. I'm not in Star Trek territory. But the whole concept of an antimatter universe A lot of it gets picked from the alternative factor. It's there. Now, I'm sure that comes from a lot of established sci-fi. The alternative factor is what people got to see the most of. Those people became comic writers. Antimatter universe. There you go. So now, the antimatter universe is separate from the infinite parallel dimensions that we would see in DC Comics pre-Crisis world. Not this 52 world, but the pre-Crisis multiple Earths world. I'm going to have to go do a whole show with my Crisis book that's behind me over this way. I digress. Well, who is this person? The options are Elon. No, that's a whole different episode. That's season 3. Tranya. Well, Tranya's a drink. That's from the Corbinite maneuver. And Clint Howard serves some Tranya. Another fine episode. I like the Corbinite maneuver. A lot of early episode. Good one. Corbinite maneuvers we're talking about a little bit more. Lazarus. I can't apologize for how I can't pronounce things. That's just how I turned out. That's just the place I grew up. That's how the speech works. Lazarus. Almost got it. Yes, that's the answer. And the other option was I don't know the reference to this. Maybe Lursa, as in Lursa and Baitor. That you're throwing a next generation choice here. That's okay. Cool. Well, it's Lazarus. That's the guest protagonist and the alternative factor. And I need a lot more time to explain whatever happened in that episode. That's an episode you can really sleep through. It's a tough one. Don't think it didn't land, but plenty of a good concept within it. You can this one individual gets to jump in between matter and antimatter universes with himself, and then he ends up fighting a version of himself. So that's where we would get from DC Comics the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, all that fun stuff, which gets me back to little bits in this that Ward takes into the first book of Star Trek Coda, which I'm not quite finished with. I'm going to get to. That gives me reason to keep going. Now I wish I was more skilled at editing, but I'm going to need to have viewers before that happens, which means it's never going to happen. But again, I'm looking toward 2027, right? Even though it's 2021. It's the end of it right now. Oh, and the answer to said question as I flipped the card over was Lazarus. Lazarus. Maybe if I talk like this, my little speech impediments won't be as noticeable. How's the gain on my fancy little microphone? And I really hope this microphone's hooked up and not the speakers but the internal microphone to them. That's my problem. Remember, be watching this at 2x speed, or 2 times, what do they call it? Yellow question. So go watch the alternative factor, and if you could make sense of that, tell me about it below. And I can have more than 4 subscribers too. It wouldn't be painful, would it? But I'm just asking for trouble when I do that. I get it. Hey, this morning I posted a 30-second clip with me and my cat. Question yellow. Okay. Spock theorized that the decrystallized Klingon dilithium could be reconstructed by injecting what into the dilithium chamber? This comes from Star Trek 4. Again, I love Star Trek 4 as well. I watched that every day as a kid. I think in '86 I was 11 years old. Maybe 10. Oh, I was 10 years old for most of that year. Most of 1986, I was 10 years old. And so when the VHS came out later on, that got played a lot. I could probably run that whole movie in my head just like I can. Maybe I could do the first 4 Trek movies in my head. Should I take a day where I take an hour and a half and do like a bonfire reading of Star Trek 2, 3, and 4? That's a possibility. Who would want that? Yeah, I definitely need to get some coin to do that. I don't think that's happening. All right, yeah, the dilithium chamber. So the Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, they go back to the 1986, and Scotty's like, these Klingon crystals, they're not happening, and they weren't. There's somehow crystals didn't work out, but there was a dubious flirtation with nuclear fission. Anyway, the warships, the aircraft carriers. That does make sense now. I think does the Enterprise aircraft carrier have a nuclear engine? Nuclear submarines have nuclear. It's nuclear. I'm doing the other interpretation of the word. But hey, so nuclear. No, I don't care. Hey, if you understand the meaning of the word, really doesn't matter how much you butcher it. So yeah, so somehow the Enterprise, the aircraft carrier Enterprise, which they couldn't get for the movie, but they have another. I forget what the ship was that was used for the movie. I feel bad that I can't remember that. But anyway, they go on board the aircraft carrier. Chekhov takes his little nuclear thing, and Uhura, and then of course Chekhov gets again. Chekhov gets injured because he gets hit on the head, or he falls down, and hey, we need a corpsman over here, and then and then hilarity once again ensues in the Star Trek world. But yeah, they're trying to get some like nuclear particles out of an aircraft carrier to recharge the crystals, and they were successful, and that is why we're all here today. Yeah, so that's the whale movie for you folks at home. Okay, so the official answer was the toxic but high-energy photons produced by nuclear fission. Doing all right today. It's been a long day at the meetings. I'm getting this out. Gives me some things to think about. I got a lot of projects to do. Still plenty of work to be done, but 18 minutes isn't hurting anyone but me right now. So that's it. That's a little tidbit in Star Trek 4. That's not it. I got one more question, right? We have the white question to get to. But yeah, that's Star Trek 4. I love that movie. It's a lot of fun movie. Depending on what mood you're in. I got a lot to say about Star Trek 4. There's going to be, I know I get guttural with the gunna. There must be more discussion on Star Trek 4. Specifically, clock tells me I should kind of call it a day. Specifically, we need to talk more about the role and the influence of Kirk Thatcher in the entire Trekdom universe and the philosophy of Trek. I see that Kirk Thatcher is more influential than Roddenberry. I will make that case another time. But Kirk Thatcher alone as the character Punk on Bus, which I think he reprises in Spider-Man Homecoming as Guy on Street. I think that was his role. Anyway, Kirk Thatcher is great. I have nothing bad to say about Kirk Thatcher. If you wanna search, if you haven't already, you would already know this. I mean, who's watching this? I don't know, but the I Hate You is a fine song. A recommendation from your Gen X friend. I Hate You. That's different from the Vulcan philosophy that Thatcher develops earlier on in that movie. More on that later. And here's a sneak peek to that. I'm pulling from my bookshelf now. I have words to say about this that I will get to one of these days. Oh yeah, and there's the yeah, you can do what you want with that too. Last question, folks, before we call it a day. That's the answer. No, that isn't the answer. This is the answer. Why am I covering? Doesn't matter. This begins with a quote. Quote, no, I wasn't thinking of Captain Kirk. It was the one with those exquisitely shaped ears. Unquote. Who's thinking of the guy with the great ears? I don't know her name. I'm given the clue it's from the Cloud Miners. I can see who she is. This one got me. I feel bad. I do not know her name. I don't know if I ever did. I'm nowhere close. Nothing comes to mind. This was one of those. I don't mean to be dismissive, but it was. There's a rotation of female guest stars in Trek, and Cloud Miners is no exception to that. I don't know what her name was. Cloud Miners is an influential episode in academic circles. A lot of critical theory that wants to bring in Trek discusses the Cloud Miners because it deals with worker exploitation. I could find those books somewhere. I think there's a book called When Corporations Rule the World. I don't know it anymore. It's a good 20 years old. I think the first chapter starts off with a sum up of the Cloud Miners. I know the place is called Stratos. It was a cloud city before Bespin. I got the Star Wars trivia questions up there too, but I'm gonna need money for those. Okay. All right, so I missed this one. So this was a loser question for me. It got me. It's a stumper. So the answer was, I just did not know. Droxine. Droxine. Drozine? I'm going to have to go watch the Cloud Miners to get this pronunciation correct. Man, that sucks. So, X's are pronounced with S's most of the time, right? It's or Z's. X is standing for Z's, so it's really Xavier and not Xavier. It's Xavier. That's what the university's called. It's Xavier. So this is Droxina for all your skincare needs. I have to read up. I got to go back to Cushman and read up more about the Cloud Miners too. There's a lot of history behind that. That's where we're going. So to sum up, whenever I want to post this, maybe tomorrow because I'm tired now, we went through Wolf in the Fold. We discussed a little bit of Star Trek 3. We discussed a little bit of the alternative factor. Yeah, going back and forth here. The fun that we can always continue to have with the voyage home. Again, go and find a link to I Hate You, and you will enjoy Punk on Bus as much as I have all my life. That's never going away. And then, a little shout out to the Cloud Miners here on this stumper that got me at the bottom. Droxina. That's Noxzema's cousin. Droxina. Hey, you all have a good day now.